it's not your imagination. It's almost impossible to get followers when you're starting out as a small channel. The hardest time to grow something new is absolutely when you first start it. Hey y'all, I'm Paige Turner. I am an author, entrepreneur, artist, and a weirdo.
Nerd alert! Nerd alert!
I'm actually filming this episode just a few miles from a bird sanctuary, so you will hear avian accompaniment all throughout this video. I am enjoying it. I hope you do as well. The challenges of recording outside, am I right? I like recording outside. I think it's fun. I think it's organic. And I'm currently traveling around the country with my partner. So a lot of times it's the best set for us since we don't have a lot of room in our RV where we live. Anyway, let's talk about how hard it is to grow when you've just started something. Now, a lot of people will say,
oh, well, of course it's hard to grow when you're small because you're a beginner and you don't know what you're doing yet and blah, blah, blah.
And to be fair, could there be a skill issue at play? Sure. A lot of times there is, but that's not the only thing that's happening here. And I want to be clear that it's hard to grow even when you have good content and you are skilled.
It's definitely not just you.
We like the idea of the viral success that's launched overnight, but for most channels, that's not going to be what happens. Instead, it's very hard to grow when you're small, even if you have good content and even if you are skilled. Meanwhile, it's practically inevitable to pick up more followers and to grow even larger once you've established yourself as a large platform. So long as you put in a bare minimum effort. What the heck? Why is that? What gives? It hardly seems fair.
Suspicious.
Well, there are two important things you need to know about how human beings work that explain this phenomenon, and I will go into them in today's video. Let's dive in. The first is something called mere exposure effect. What's that? Well, basically mere exposure effect is a psychological phenomenon where just the simple act of having been exposed to something means that you like it more. And it is a pervasive effect that has borne out with all sorts of things. They found it with words, with paintings, with pictures of faces, even geometric figures, abstract shapes. If you're exposed to them, however briefly, you will develop a slight preference for them as you become more familiar with them, merely by being exposed to them. And most relevantly to today's video, in studies of interpersonal attraction, the more often that people see someone, the more pleasing and likable they perceive that person. Okay, so what precisely does this have to do with large YouTube channels? Well, by definition, large YouTubers have been exposed to a lot more people than someone that's just starting out or someone who has a very small channel, simply by having their thumbnails shown to more people. It increases the likelihood that any given person will click on a thumbnail. And we all know that in YouTube terms, click-through rate is king. Along with watch times, click-through rate is perhaps the most important metric in growing your YouTube channel. So having a boost to that is huge. In addition to raising click-through rate, the more videos that someone has seen from a particular channel, the more likely it is that that viewer will click subscribe on a particular video. And the less likely they are to click away from the content, thereby increasing watch time. Not only that, but the effects of mere exposure are cumulative over time, so they can have a huge impact as a channel continues to grow. Okay, Paige, you might be saying. For mere exposure effect to work, though, that person has to have been exposed to it before, right?
Ha! Gotcha.
What about people who haven't seen this channel before, even if it's a big channel? Like, they're not getting anything from this, right? There's nothing going on there, and there's no big advantage for the big channel then. Wrong, actually. That brings me to my second big thing that's happening with these big channels getting bigger. And frankly, it's something that happens with large content creators on any platform, not just YouTube. Because this is not platform specific, this is human being specific. And that is something called social proof. So what's social proof? Well, it's also sometimes referred to as herd mentality, but basically it is a phenomenon where decision-making is influenced by other people, as that decision becomes credible and validated by any sort of evidence that other people have made the same decision.
Everyone jumped off a bridge, would you?
I hope you see where I'm going here. Or put another way, people are influenced in their decision-making by knowing others have done the same thing. What does this have to do with being a content creator? Well, any sort of public popularity metric is a form of social proof. So If a channel has a lot of subscribers or a particular video has a lot of views, that becomes a kind of independent quality metric that new viewers evaluate your content by. It signals to the potential new viewer, a lot of other people like this content, so it's probably worth your while.
Seems like that's a safe bet.
And because of these public numbers, it becomes much more likely that a new viewer will click and check out the channel and frankly give the video more leeway, even if it's kind of a dud at the beginning. They're more likely to say, well, there's a reason people like this, I'm going to see what it is. What's interesting about this is that social proof mechanism in turn exposes them to the channel's content, thereby activating mere exposure effect. So even if they don't like it on that first view, they've been primed with it, they've been exposed to it, they're more likely to click on it in the future. Essentially, they become more subconsciously receptive to the content by virtue of being exposed to it. And even if they don't like it at first, they could in fact, over time, develop an acquired taste or appreciation for the creator's content. Anyway, these are real phenomenon, very common. And when you're a small channel, it's pretty obnoxious. It's the social media equivalent of the rich getting richer while the poor struggle. It doesn't seem fair if you're the one out there broke and working night and day to try to get your channel seen if you have no followers. So what can you do about it? Well, I made another video on that, one that shares the best strategies for content creators looking to grow from 0 followers. Here it is. But yeah, in any event, thanks for watching and I'll see you in the next video.